Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Solution Spotlight. We're going to give it just 1 minute or so to let people trickle in. Um, I know that Kitsis always mentions during the town hall with XYPN that he doesn't understand why Zoom really allows everything to just filter in as if we're in a conference hall and everyone has to fill in from the door. So I think that that's really funny too. I can relate. But let's just give it a couple more seconds here before we officially kick off. Okay. I think Steady Stream has officially come to a nice little trickle. So let's get started. Welcome again, everybody, to today's Solution Spotlight titled Gain a Competitive Edge, Real-Time Client Spending Insights for Advisors with Monarch Money. Joining us today are Derek Bruner, Relationship and Partnership Manager at Monarch Money, and Natalie Taylor, CFP, BFA, Certified Financial Planner, Behavioral Financial Advisor at the Goodland Group. She is also a current XYPN member and used to be head of financial advice at Monarch and still is a company advisor at Monarch Money. So really good ties and going to be a very fruitful conversation for you all today. And we are just so honored to be able to spotlight Monarch Money today. While they are not an official XYPN member, we recognize how both of our companies are just two leaders in this financial planning space, creating a dynamic collaboration that enhances the client experience. Combining XYPN's dedication to empowering independent financial planners with Monarch Money's cutting-edge personal finance tools and data-driven insights, we offer clients a comprehensive approach to managing their wealth and provide a seamless integration of financial planning and personalized budgeting, helping clients confidently make more informed decisions and achieve their financial goals. Which is just why we're all here, really. So we just align in that perspective. I will let Derek and Natalie introduce themselves more formally, but just to review some of these housekeeping items before I turn it over to them, there are the chat tab and the Q&A tabs located below. So throughout the presentation, as questions come up, please don't hesitate to drop any of your questions in the Q&A tab. Derek and Natalie are going to be monitoring them, and they do want to make this a conversational flow. So just any questions that you have, drop them throughout the presentation. They will get answered. And there are going to be some upcoming events on the XYPN side. So tomorrow, November 13th, please be sure to join us for a webinar with our compliance team from overwhelmed to in control, enhancing your compliance framework as an RIA owner. And then December 3rd, there is another webinar that we're going to be hosting called Permanent Life Insurance, Should It Stay or Should It Go, with LLIS, which is a national sponsor of XYPN, and it is 1 CFP CE credit eligible. So by all means, join us and get that in before the end of the year. And then last but not least, XYPN Live 2025 is going to be in Dallas, Texas next year, September 25th to the 27th. Tickets are $4.99 for XYPN members and $6.99 for non-members, and it is on sale through the end of the year. So it goes up, prices go up December 31st, and I will drop a registration link along with the registration links for the webinars that I mentioned above. So without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Derek and Natalie.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. We're really excited to be here and show you a little bit about Monarch and how it can help you manage your clients' cash flow, kind of figure out how much they're spending on a monthly basis. Before we get going, I would love to kind of point you to that polls and quizzes area. There are 3 quick questions there just to kind of get us started, get the conversation going here. One of which is, do any of you use Monarch with your clients currently? I may have even, conducted demos or met some of you at the XYPN live conference. So would love to hear from any of you if you have started using Monarch or if you have used it in the past. The second question we have here is the importance of managing budget and cash flow. How important is that to you? And then the third question here is, um, how do you typically determine how much your clients are spending on a monthly basis? There's a couple options in there, spreadsheets, other budgeting tools, maybe a questionnaire, something like that. So we'd love to hear what you have there. And I will turn it over to Natalie now, where she can start her side of the presentation here.
Okay, awesome. I'm just going to launch the poll. I don't think those questions actually got launched. So I'm going to start with this first one and put in the chat if you can't see it, but hopefully oh, I see you responding. Great. So this one is, are you currently using Monarch? Okay, awesome. So it looks like we're about 50-50. Maybe a few more not using it yet. Okay, cool.
Amazing.
And then I'm going to launch, here, I'll share the results on that one. Okay, and then I'm going to launch the second one. So this one is, how important do you think it is to help your clients manage their budget and cash flow? Awesome. Looks like almost everybody has responded. So we've got about 80-20 between very important 80% and moderately important 20%. So I'm going to go ahead and end this one and share it real quick. Awesome. Okay, and we're just going to do one more really quickly. These help us get to know the audience a little bit as well. Joshua, good luck on your launch. Okay, so this third one is determine how much clients are spending. How do you typically determine how much your clients are spending on a monthly basis? I feel like maybe there's like a secret fifth answer here, which is I take whatever they're putting towards their goals minus their income and figuring they're spending the rest. We'll call that reverse budgeting. Yeah, take their word for it, Justin. I hear you on that. Yep. None of the above. Yeah, Joshua. Yep. Okay, cool. So I'll just share these results real quick so y'all can see too. So it looks like about 36% spreadsheets, and then 40% questionnaire, a few with another budgeting or cash flow tool, a few requesting bank statements. That's always scary, I find, because then they give you a bunch of statements and then you have to wade through all of the information and data, and it's in a very non-useful format. So I try to avoid that at all costs. I don't know if anybody else has gotten caught with that. Okay, cool. Derek, did you have anything else before you wanted me to jump in?
Oh, I'm good, Natalie. Go ahead if you're ready to go.
Okay, awesome. So like Sarah said, I am a firm owner. I'm an XYPN member. My firm's called the Goodland Group, and I use Monarch with my clients. I just checked this morning, 77% of our households are signed up with Monarch. I'm going to say confidently, most of our clients are using Monarch with us through the practice. I also previously was head of financial advice with Monarch. So I want y'all to know that I have a connection and I'm still a company advisor there. I joined Monarch while I was growing my practice because I really wanted to finish the work that I got to start previously in my career in fintech. I really wanted wonderful tools to be available to consumers directly for not only budgeting, but like a dashboard for their finances, and ultimately to help them move towards their goals and understand the whole picture of their finances. And so my practice was growing so quickly that I wasn't able to be in-house anymore as head of financial advice, but I'm still a company advisor with Monarch. So I just want to be really clear about my relationship with Monarch. But here I'm with you just as a fellow firm owner, telling you how I use Monarch with my clients. So, okay, looks like we have a question maybe from Julie. Maybe pop it in the chat if you want, Julie. Okay. So what is Monarch? Monarch is, it was originally a direct-to-consumer personal financial management tool, a PFM. The co-founder of Mint, the first product manager of Mint is the co-founder of Monarch. So if you were ever a Mint user, one of the original PMs that built Mint is one of the co-founders of Monarch, and he's really finishing what he didn't get to finish, finishing what he started at Mint. Monarch is about 20 years, almost 20 years more mature than Mint was. So it's fundamentally different in a lot of different ways. But if you were familiar with what Mint was, of linking accounts and tracking your budget, it's a similar sort of tool. Others, YNAB, for example, although YNAB is different in that it's zero-based, requires a lot more interaction to be able to use it for budgeting. So that's a different budgeting approach. Monarch doesn't have any ads. So just so you know, as an advisor, if you use Monarch with your clients, they're not going to be pinged incessantly to open a credit card or refinance their mortgage or take out a HELOC or whatever, or open an account somewhere else. There are no ads. So it's a really clean, nice experience. The advisor option is really great because it allows me to pay for Monarch for my clients and send them an invitation so that I can see their Monarch and I can actually like update it if that's useful. I can I can't add accounts to it for them. That's the only part that I can't do. But other than that, I can set up their goals for them. I can set up their budget if that's a direction that we're going. Some clients we do, some clients we don't. I can nickname their accounts so that it all feels really consistent with the experience that they have, in the planning that we do. And just so you know, Monarch uses multiple aggregators on the back end. So although no account linking is perfect, I have found after, working with Mint with clients in, 2008, 2009, 2010, I then worked at LearnVest and we built we called it Money Center, but we built a Mint from scratch. And I know a lot of the planning softwares have aggregation as well. I will say Monarch aggregation is superior, but not perfect, because no aggregation is perfect, but they use multiple aggregators on the back end and flip between them to see which one is most effective for that particular financial institution. So I do not find that I have a lot of troubleshooting to do with clients in terms of account linking. Occasionally there's one that they're having trouble with, but in general, it works pretty darn well. Okay, so I'd love to share how I use Monarch with clients, and I'll say it and then I'll show it. Derek, do we need to pause for any questions yet?
I think we're in good shape for now.
Okay, great. So there's a few major ways that I use Monarch with clients in terms of how I position it and how we use it. The first one is that it's a way for me to give them a financial dashboard experience where they can see their net worth, they can see their cash flow, and they can see their goals all in one place. It's something that I can't do with any other software quite in this way. And so I really like the experience that they get of seeing their finances, and they attribute it to our relationship, which is great. It also, as an advisor, allows me to see their account balances. It allows me to see most of the holdings inside of their accounts, not all of them, and it's not full information. I'm not getting cost basis information from Monarch, but I can at least see what's in your 401k if they didn't provide me a statement yet. And I can check back and see, did they move to those funds that we recommended for the 401k, for example, or an IRA, for example, if we're not managing it ourselves. So I can get a lot of information there without having to bother the client, which I really like. I can also see large transactions. So I can filter really easily, and I'll show you how I do that. But I can filter really easily to see, did you make your quarterly estimated tax payment? And did your RSUs come to fruition? How much did you get to keep of your bonus? I know you were expecting 100,000 gross, but how much actually hit your account? And is the money there, and has it disappeared yet? I can see those things really easily with Monarch. So that I can be more informed when I'm then communicating with the client. I can ask them for less for the amount of value I'm providing. Because from my perspective, I think from being in tech for over a decade, every time I ask for data, that is, I am asking the client to pay me in data. And so the more I ask them to pay me in data, the more I owe back to them. So if I can get a lot of information myself through Monarch and then still provide really phenomenal value, I like the way that equation looks a lot better than, can you send me all of your account statements again? And can you send me your pay stub again? And can you tell me how much your net bonus was? And can you confirm whether you made your estimated payments? I would love to not have to ask the client all those questions to then be able to respond and give them the advice or guidance that they need. Couple other ways that I use it. I set up their goals in Monarch Money. So I don't use Monarch to calculate their goals. Monarch doesn't have that capability. So you can use planning software or whatever you use on the other end. But I set up their goals and I can assign their accounts to their goals. And if they have an account, like for example, a brokerage account that's for multiple goals, like half of it is for kiddo 1 and half of it is for kiddo 2 for education, I can split it in Monarch and show it allocated to 2 different education goals so that the client can always see how much do I have saved for retirement? How much do I have saved for education? And how much more do I need to pay down on my mortgage? So it's a nice way to aggregate, or like I have 12 different student loans. How can I see at the end of the day, like in the big picture, how much do I owe still? How much more room do I have to go? So again, it's just like a nice visual dashboard sort of experience for goals too. And then the last piece, I know this was like about cash flow. I haven't mentioned cash flow or budgeting yet, but I use it with clients for cash flow. And I use it in a couple different ways. The first one is clients who are like, I'm not really looking to track everything really closely, but from a planning perspective, we need to understand what their cash flow looks like. And for the vast majority of my clients, they underestimate. I mean, I think for the vast majority of humans, they underestimate what they spend if you ask them to list it out. So I do ask clients to list it out as a starting point. And then in our first meeting, I say, okay, so you have $4,000 left at the end of every month. Does that sound right? And we all know their answer, right? Their answer is like, no, we're about break even. And it's like, okay, well, we get to go find 4,000 a month. So because that happens, and I can't build good retirement projections if we're not sure where $4,000 a month goes, right? Is that on childcare? Because childcare is not going to be around in retirement. Or is it on like dining out and travel and stuff they're going to want to continue doing in retirement? Like I need to understand the $4,000, not to judge it, not to decrease it necessarily unless they really need to reach their goals. But I do need to understand it to be able to give them good advice in all the other places. Is it real estate taxes? Is it a super high building fee for your, if you live in New York or potentially San Francisco? Like I need to understand the outlines of what that money really is. Beyond just knowing, okay, you put X amount away for your goals and you spend the rest. As a financial planner, I don't feel like I can do my job as well as I should be unless I do have a good understanding of spending. So I'm going to pop into the chat just real quick because I'm seeing lots of things come through.
Yeah, there was one that I actually wanted to bring up for you because it's actually, I wanted to stop you there because it's perfect for this conversation. Do your clients have reservations about you having access to all their transactions? And then there's a second part, which I'll answer this right off the bat. Does Monarch allow limited accessibility if they don't feel comfortable with you seeing all of it? And this is from Victoria. Victoria, we do not currently allow limited accessibility. That is definitely something that is on our future roadmap, though.
Cool. Okay. Great. And what was the first question was about? Do they have a problem with me seeing?
Exactly. Yeah, reservations about it. Exactly.
Yeah, I would say out of the almost 75% of our clients, I've had one so far that was like, I was like, I noticed that you didn't add your credit cards. And she was like, I'm a little embarrassed of you seeing my spending. And I told her, okay, like that's okay. You don't have to add your credit cards. I told her that I see inside, for 20 years, I've seen inside a lot of people's finances and nothing really shocks me. I'm not here to judge any of your spending. I'm just here to understand it. So if at some point you decide you feel comfortable putting that in there, that's great. And if not, that's okay too. We'll figure it out. And then she added them and then it's been fine. So, I have pretty close relationships with my clients. I am a financial planning focused practice. Building trust is a really big part of what I think all of us do as planners. So I have generally not had pushback on, I don't want to see transactions. So that hasn't really been too much of an issue.
The comparison I always make there is it's kind of like a doctor-patient relationship, right? Like if you have an issue, you're not embarrassed for your doctor to know that. And it's kind of the same thing as with your financial advisor. It's like, hey, I'm just here to help you along. I'm not here to judge anything, just like you said. So
yeah. But I think it is very common for clients to feel like they're going to be judged on all of their finances, right? Like coming to a financial advisor and being like, this is how much I've saved for retirement. Is this good or bad, right? Like they're really looking for us for that validation. And so it is like a sensitive, delicate thing. And spending can be one of those things. But I have not found that to be a barrier virtually at all in using Monarch with clients. But it does take some positioning for some of those clients. So actually, I have that in my. I'll speak more to that in a few minutes. But first, let me say how I use it in terms of budgeting. So I was kind of saying there was two ways, right? Because I need to understand spending to be a good financial planner. I need to know where the money's going. The one side of it is like clients who are like, I don't want to categorize a transaction. I'm really not going to look at the data, like for the spending data. I love the dashboard. And if it's helpful to your practice, Natalie, like I love you not having to ask me more questions, like for you to be able to just see it. Great. For some clients, that's it. For me on the spending side, though, I can still go and see their historical spending. And if I go in and categorize a few big payments, which for my clients are usually like IRS, real estate taxes, vacation, or some remodel or something. If I can go and kind of like get those to the spot they're supposed to be, which doesn't take very long because I can filter for big expenses and just throw them where they need to go, I can get a pretty good sense of what they're spending monthly. So if they tell me we're spending 15 grand a month, and then I can see, actually, it looks like you're spending more like 18 grand a month, which no judgment here, but when I, look at it this way. So anyway, for those clients that don't want to categorize a transaction or really do much, it's still actually really helpful for me to be able to see what spending looks like. For those that do want to track spending, I set up the fixed flex non-monthly framework. I call it a flow-based framework. I think the first thing I did when I joined Monarch in June of 2021, I said, we should build this into the product. So it's coming. I'll let Derek speak to like when that's coming, but it's coming soon. I go in and manually set up fixed, flex, and non-monthly. Can you just tell me really quick in the chat, like when I say fixed, flex, non-monthly, or flow-based framework, I spoke about it at XYPN last year, not the most recent conference. How many of you are like, yes, I've heard of that before? Can you just put a quick yes in the chat if you've heard me talk about that before? If you know what fixed, flex, non-monthly is.
Got a couple.
And you can put a no if you're like, what is this woman talking about?
We got one no so far. Couple no's.
Okay. So we've got a quick mix. I will very quickly explain how I do fixed flex, but I'm going to do it once I'm sharing screen. The last thing I'll say before I show you like what it looks like for me to interact with Monarch with clients is we were talking about like, what about clients who might be hesitant to show their spending? There's a few different things that I find to be very helpful to say to clients. You may already be saying these things to clients, but what I think about is like, what am I ultimately competing with in terms of understanding their spending? I'm competing with the both of us not knowing, right? Because it's sort of like people who like think they might be sick but don't want to go to the doctor because then the doctor will tell them a diagnosis and then they know, right? So like what I'm competing with is like the slot machine still running of like, oh, it could be anything. Oh, maybe we do only spend 5 grand a month instead of 10 grand a month or whatever that is. So why am I competing against that, right? What are the reasons that clients either don't know or don't want to know their spending? One is that it's just too hard. There are not great options for getting spending data easily. And so I think Monarch does a good job of solving that for those who want to solve it, but it's too hard. One of them is judgment, either from their self or their partner or perceived judgment from you. And so I think, I'll talk through the fixed flex non-monthly a bit, but one of the things I love about that structure is that it's not judgment based. It's not, these are important expenses and these are unimportant expenses, or these are mandatory and these are optional, right? Like we all have those things that don't feel optional for us, but out from the outside in might seem optional. So I think there's that judgment piece. Sometimes it creates tension and stress because it's like a lot of stuff on your to-do list, and maybe it causes conflict between a partnership. And then there's this like nickel and diming of like, it takes all the fun out of it to have to nickel and dime every transaction. I'm a big fan of like broader budget categories that make it a lot easier. Like, I don't really care if it's coffee or lunch out or dinner out or breakfast or a snack bar. It's like, it's all dining or all restaurants. So I think using bigger categories can help with that nickel and dime feeling as well. Okay, let me get into sharing screen here. But Derek, are there any questions or comments that are worth, or not worth, but that you want me to respond to, or?
There's a few questions, but I think that some of these are gonna be more relevant towards the end of the presentation here. One that I think, and there are two about this that we can go into right now, was asked, do you also use another financial planning tool like a Right Capital? If so, do you have clients link their accounts to both apps, or how does that work?
If I use planning software?
If you use planning software, and if you do you have clients also link their accounts to planning software if they're using
Got it. I am a little snowflakey in this way. I have built planning software multiple times in my career. I think planning software is great. I actually don't use planning software for the most part with my clients. So I don't have to link it to places, but theoretically, if you did need to link it to Right Capital, then you would need to link it to places. You would need to have them add their accounts both places. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to share screen here. And I'm going to show you what this is all a demo environment, so you're not going to see anybody's real information. But this is what the advisor dashboard looks like. So it's really simple and straightforward. There's only 4 clients in this demo environment, Laura, Miller, and Amy, Melanie, and demo user. They each get a unique code, and this is the code that you share with the client so that they can sign up for Monarch and basically get 100% off, and it links them to you so that you can then go in and see their household. You also have a really good status on, are they active? Have they redeemed yet? And when's the last time that they looked at their account? So that's also really helpful. Oftentimes I'll come in here and it's like client last looked 19 minutes ago. And then for others, it's like client last looked 3 months ago. So that gives me a really quick understanding of like, is this a client that's using Monarch on a daily basis or not? It's useful for both, but useful kind of in different ways. So this is what this the advisor portal looks like. I'm going to click over to this other window, which basically I would have just gotten to by just clicking view household. So now I'm viewing a household. The data in here isn't going to be perfect because it's a demo environment. So just keep that in mind. This is the way, so the dashboard is the initial view that clients will see when they log in. And you can customize it however you want. They can customize it as well. So they can add a bunch of stuff to it. You can move it around. You can drag these in different places, which is really nice. These are the 4 things that I like to have on the dashboard for clients. They can see their net worth. They can easily select across different time periods. Spending this month versus last month, I really like, because it just gives a quick view of like, how are you doing this month? And you know, what's common is when a rent payment or a mortgage payment hits, spending spikes. So you don't really expect spending to be the same every day, right? Like 1/30th and then 2/30ths and then 3/30ths. That's not really how spending goes. So I like this visual because it's really simple, but it allows you to see compared to last month how your spending is tracking. So I find this to be a useful visual. And then budget at a high level, income and expenses, just so they can get a sense of how things are going. And then goals. So in here, we just have one goal in here, vacation. But it's very easy to set up new goals. And this is something that I'll do for clients. I'll be like, okay, we're saving for emergency, education, retirement, and we're paying down a mortgage. And then I can go in here, I can prioritize them. I set how much are we aiming for? Sorry, I should have done less goals. And then I can actually assign accounts. So I can say, oh, well, they use their joint savings for emergency fund. So this is how I set up accounts. And it allows me to very easily say, okay, well, these are their retirement accounts, their 401ks and Melanie's IRA. So now they're going to have a really clear picture of how much they've saved for retirement, 531,914 of, let's say it's 3 million. This is a high level view. So this doesn't have any calculation in it or you're on track or off track or anything at this point. It's just a balance, but it allows them to see where they stand. And this is what it would look like if those were added. Okay. So that's the dashboard experience. Their accounts, I can see their accounts and their balances. So if they've got 77,000 in checking, they probably got a bonus recently. That's high for what I would generally recommend a client keep in checking. I can easily see how much is in their savings. If they have big credit card balances, because I can look at their checking and say, ooh, you've got too much in checking. But if they've also got 40 grand on a credit card, maybe they don't have too much in checking. So it allows me to see what's going on. I can also see their investment accounts. You're not going to get detailed investment information here. So I want to make that clear. But for most accounts, you can click in and you can actually see the holdings inside. So for John's 401k in this example, I can see that he's split between the total stock market index fund and the total bond market index fund. So notably, he's missing international stocks and bonds. But I don't have to ask the client for a 401k statement. I can just pop in here and see what he's got. And then real estate you can add through Zillow, and then loans you can add as well. So they can get a good snapshot. They can also add manually. Like I have a lot of clients who have equity in private companies. We can add those manually. You're generally not getting daily updates on that anyway. You just get an update when the 409A changes or maybe the preferred price. And so we can go in and manually make those changes as needed. Transactions, this is where I would go if I was trying to filter for something big, like did they make their, did they get a bonus? So I can say, okay, well, I'm going to filter for amounts greater than 2,000. And I want to look at credits only. So money coming in. And then I can apply that and it's going to show me everything that's above 2,000. For my clients, I'm normally filtering for a much larger number, like 20,000 or 50,000. But it's a really easy way to see like what is going on with the client if you're looking for something specific. Derek, any questions that I should pause on yet, or should I keep walking through? I think you're on mute, Derek.
Sorry about that. I mean, we can go through a couple questions right now if you'd like to. They're more of kind of, you know, more general discussion questions, not as much on specifically the use of the system, but however you'd like to do it.
Okay. Sure. Why don't we go to those?
Yeah, let's take one. So Kenna here asks, can you talk through the difference between Monarch's framework around the budgeting tools versus YNAB zero-based budget, which I think you touched on a little bit in the beginning there, but.
Yep. Yeah, I'm happy to go to budget. So Monarch uses what would be like an account-based, a flow-based budget, meaning you're not actually assigning every dollar from your checking account. YNAB, you know, I think they say like get a paycheck ahead, you know, spend or get a month ahead, right? So like you're actually allocating the dollars that are in your checking account and saying these dollars are going to go to these places, and it's the money that exists right now. That's ultimately what like zero-based budgeting is. Zero-based budgeting was created by companies to use when they were like in debt or very close to even, because they had to really manage every single dollar in the business account to make sure that they didn't go under. So zero-based budgeting can be a good tool for those who tend to be, not that others can't use it, but it tends to be a more effective tool, in my opinion, in my experience, for clients or consumers who are much closer to like net zero, who like, sure, I could theoretically say that I'm going to spend that amount, but if it's not in my checking account right now, like I'm trying to think about when am I going to get paid versus when is my rent going to hit? Zero-based is really helpful for that. Monarch is not built on that. So you're not actually taking the balance from your checking account and mapping it to expenses directly. Instead, you're saying, I'm going to bring in, like in this example, we know that we're going to make $8,800 a month, and we're going to have a plan for where those $8,800 are going to go. And we know that there's enough wiggle room in our checking account that we don't really have to worry about timing of payments as much. So this is more how the money flows on an ongoing basis versus spending the actual dollars from the account. So that's the difference. In terms of the fixed flex, I said that I would get to that. This demo account is set up this way. At a high level, This is what I use with my clients. This is what we used at LearnVest. We got to test. I used to be at a company called LearnVest, and we got to see tens of thousands. Like, we got to test stuff at scale. We were an RIA. We went from, in 5.5 years, we went from 0 to 14,000 clients. And we served a ton more through an outwork channel. So, and we created our own like PFM. So we got to see a lot of things at scale. We had 50 or so CFPs serving clients in that time period. One of the things that sort of I took the learnings from LearnVest, and this is where fixed flex non-monthly came from. At a high level, fixed expenses are the ones that are not going to change that much on a monthly basis, and they generally can be put on auto pay. So mortgage, rent, utilities, childcare, gym membership, insurance, etc. These are things that if you didn't ever click spend or go out of your house, they would still generally charge. Flex expenses is all the stuff of daily life. So this could be restaurants, dining out, little gifts for your friends or for your kids' friends, entertainment, fun money, gas, medical copays. This is not important or unimportant or mandatory or discretionary. This is just legitimately how it flows. This is the daily spending of everyday life. So that's flex expenses. And then non-monthlies is the stuff that's going to happen in the next 12 months. It just doesn't occur evenly every month. So maybe it's a semi-annual auto insurance bill or real estate taxes that happen a couple times a year, or summer camps for your kids that always seem to surprise me because I have to pay for them in February. But those are the kinds of things that are non-monthly. So I take those, add them all up, divide them by 12, and I put that as part of the budget so that clients can see, like, how does that look on a monthly basis? So that's a high level of fixed, flex, and non-monthly. Whether clients are using Monarch to budget or not, my clients really like that system. And they will often, like for flex, for example, they'll just have one credit card and they do all of their flex spending on that one credit card. And then they know exactly, because that's normally the area that they need to track the most, that they underestimate the most. It's very easy to see if it's all just hitting that one credit card. Some of my clients will pay it off weekly so that they have a weekly flex number, whether it's 500 a week, 1,000 a week, 2,000 a week, whatever that number is. This is really the area where they have the most influence and need the most tracking, but it's nice to be able to do it with just one number, which is, what is my total flex? Because it really doesn't matter that much. Did they spend more on restaurants or more on groceries? What really matters is their daily spending in the range that it needs to be. Derek, I'm going to pause for questions real quick on the fixed flex non-monthly. And
Yeah, perfect. And yeah, I just wanted to say, about the fixed flex too, we kind of teased out the fact that we're going to be adding that as a new feature in Monarch, which that should be coming sometime next week or possibly the following week. We've actually been rolling that out to some beta testers. I've been using it a little bit on my end. It's really cool the way that works. There's a really good onboarding flow for it so that clients know exactly, exactly how that works, exactly, which expenses they want in the fix, which ones they want in the flex. And the non-monthly area is going to be really cool too, where we're going to be able to also build sinking funds in there, which are going to be really cool as well. So, your vehicle maintenance or something like that, if it's a $1,200 amount that you need for the year, then you can put that as part of your budget as $100 savings towards it. So we're really excited for that. That's probably one of the features I've been most excited for. So,
yep. Awesome. And likewise, yeah, the sinking funds are similar to it's the same concept of what I'm talking about with non-monthly expenses. It just allows you to do it a little bit differently. Okay, I'm just going to look in the chat for a couple things. So real estate, oh, good. You added how it can be added. Yep, through Zillow or as a manual account if it needs to be. And then somebody mentioned, John, on the term flex versus variable. Yeah, flex is more like, we're trying to give, the reason I call it flex with clients is because like they have, it gives them more agency over it. It's more empowering than variable. Like variable is more like, oh, these expenses keep changing on me. Whereas flex is like, oh, I have some flexibility to decide, am I going to spend more here this week or more here this week? As long as I'm under that weekly flex, I'm cool. So Anyway, that's the idea of fixed flex non-monthly. And then there are some really cool reports in here. I sometimes will get into these with clients. But what's helpful is you can see things over time. I'm just scrolling through a couple of them just to show you kind of the type of reporting that's available in here. If you're a Sankey person, it's here. It's very pretty. Lots of numbers here. But if you like that kind of view, Monarch gives you a lot of different views. What's really helpful though is to be able to see things over time. And there's lots of different options to be able to see it, so that you can help clients understanding how their spending is, how it actually looks. The other really great thing is when you're setting up a budget in here, it'll tell you if you've been doing it for a while. This happens to match because it's a demo account, but it'll tell you your monthly average in that category. So if it's somebody who is using Monarch for budgeting, it will tell you what your monthly average is, which is very illuminating for a lot of clients who might not have known what their numbers look like. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing screen. There's a comment from Julie about transactions being auto-categorized. Yes, there is some automatic mapping. It's not always perfect. And you can really easily set up rules so that it says, okay, every time something comes from Amazon, it goes in our grocery category or our household category. Or every time it comes from, my company, it's my paycheck. Or every time it's this amount, it's the mortgage. So you can set it up with lots of different parameters. I can share screen on that really quickly. But you can set up lots of rules and they're super easy to do. So you can create a rule that says every time it says Amazon, I want it to go to my, flex, I don't know, let's just say clothing. So you can set up this rule and then save it. You can also do it from an account. So for example, we have one credit card that we use for reimbursable expenses for my husband because he has to put a lot of work travel on a personal credit card. We have one credit card set for it. So every time something comes from that account, that specific credit card, it goes to a category called business reimbursable so that it doesn't get all mixed in with our regular finances. So the rules are really cool. You can set them over time. Once you categorize a transaction, there'll be a little thing that pops up that says, would you like to create a rule for this? And you can just say yes. And then it'll ask you it'll suggest what the rule be. You can update it as you want. And then that transaction will be categorized that way moving forward. So for those that do want to use Monarch for more active budgeting, the rules are phenomenal because they allow you to set it and forget it. So, okay, awesome. And let's see, if you're an advisor and want to use this with your clients, how do you charge? Derek, do you want to share what pricing looks like?
Yes, so I can share what pricing looks like on our end. I think there was also a question which I can defer to you as far as how you are charging for your services on Monarch. So I'll take the first part of it, about
Sure.
how we charge for Monarch. On the advisor portal, when you initially sign up for it, it's going to ask you to put a credit card in. We don't charge an annual or monthly subscription fee for just having access to the Monarch advisor portal. What we charge for each of the sponsored clients. Each of the sponsored clients are $9 a month. We do provide some volume discounts as well. So if you get to 50 sponsored clients, we drop that price to $6. If you get to 100, we drop it to $5. If you get to 150, we drop it to $4 per sponsored.
Cool. And then you asked me to speak to how I use it, how I charge for it with clients.
Yes, so there are a couple questions in here about that. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so I don't charge separately for Monarch. It's part of our planning offering. So we charge either $375 a month or $475 a month for clients for financial planning. So that's $4,500 a year or $5,700 a year. And it's just one of the services that's included in financial planning. So I know that there are financial coaches that price it a little bit differently. And there's also, I think, there's a use case here that I don't use Monarch for, but I think is meaningful, which is when you're doing perhaps a lower priced ongoing coaching with clients, maybe more on the financial coaching side, or maybe it's a tranche of clients that aren't quite ready for your full services and maybe can't afford them or won't afford them, or have just more simple needs, right? Like cash flow management, debt reduction, building an emergency fund, starting to save for retirement. Monarch can be used as a way to bundle in as like your primary source, your primary software to use, to help scale that kind of offering. So you certainly want to acknowledge in your pricing that you're going to be paying Monarch, whatever that is, $6 a month or whatever it is. So if you were going to charge 30, charge 36, just to make sure that your cost is covered, and that offering is still profitable, but Monarch can be used in that way as well. So that can be helpful. John would love for us to put those numbers in the chat. Oh,
Just put
perfect.
that in
Derek
there
just
for
got
him.
that in there.
Yep.
Okay, great. Yep.
I think this is a really good conversational question too. So, this was asked. So it's one thing to set up a budget. It's another thing to follow it. How do you sort of keep clients on track, or do you defer to them?
Got it. So I will say that one of the things that I think is scariest for advisors in wading into budget, which I think is why many of us default to like reverse budgeting, which is basically like you bring home 15 grand a month and you save 2, so you must spend 13K, got it. That's reverse budgeting of like, if spend the rest, right? I think the reason that many advisors do that is because getting into budgeting can be like time intensive with clients, and it's a little scary. So what I like about Monarch is that it allows us to get all of it in front of us together in terms of like, how do I help them if they're not sticking to their budget? I find that it's really like in client meetings, like I will pull up their Monarch and we will look at, so I'm going to share screen again. So where we will go is I'll go into budget, and the data is not going to look perfect because it's a demo account, but I'll go into forecast. That gives you a month by month. It's sort of the closest thing to a spreadsheet view. I'll go in here and I'll share screen. So this is how I would do it with the client. And I would say, okay, income's been pretty steady. We expected 8,800. It's been 8,400. So it looks like we're about 400 short, but whatever. Fixed expenses over here. So on the right side of this bar, this November 2024 over here, this is their actual budget. So this is what we expect to be true. And so I use that as an anchor to say, okay, let's look at fixed expenses. We expected fixed expenses to be somewhere around 3,854 a month. When we look over time, your fixed expenses are falling just below that. So we may actually be able to decrease and find where that overestimation is. But you're well within your fixed expense budget. So I think we have a good handle on your fixed expenses. Your flex expenses. So this is where the data isn't great because it's a test account. But for clients, usually this is the spot where there's a real big difference, right? Oh, so we were expecting your overall flex expenses to be, for my clients, a lot of times it's like, we were expecting them to be 5 grand. And then we'll look back on the last like 8 months or so and say, okay, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, 4,000, 10,000, and say, gosh, it looks like it's trending upward. It looks like it's falling consistently bigger than what we expected. So that might be something to consider, whether it's a case of spending needs to be adjusted to stay closer to what the budget is, or whether that budget is unrealistic and we need to think about shifting more dollars into that budget. So like, that's the conversation I'll have. And even if all of the detailed numbers are, they're not present here because it's a demo account, but even if they're not perfectly categorized, like there's something in coffee shops that's really clothing, the high level number is really what matters there. And so sometimes I'll even just show them this view of like, here's the high level number for all of Flex, and here's what we expected your spending to be. And what's nice about Monarch is that I always love opportunities for the client to see the information themselves instead of me having to say, hey, you're overspending. If I show them this and I say, here's what we expected and here's how spending is trending, they can say to me, oh, wow, it looks like we've been way over. And then I can say to them, I see that too, there's a couple things to do about it, right? One is like, do you think that this budget is even realistic? If it is, then let's talk about some ways that you can maybe fall into it, you know, a little bit closer. But if it isn't realistic, if you've been trying the hardest that you can to get your flex expenses to be closer to that budget number and it's just not working, I think we might need to reorient your budget so that you have more money in flex. So let's look at ways to do that. But it allows us to have a non-judgmental conversation, but with the real data in front of them so that they can see the conclusions on their own. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing again. Okay. Any other questions, Derek, that you would like me to address?
There's one on the rollover function. So it asks, do you use the rollover fund feature in the budget? If so, can you please show us how to use it or how you use it?
Yes, I can. So the rollover budget function, I tend to use just for non-monthlies. So I'll explain what it is. And sorry, my dog is snoring in the back of my office. So if you hear some weird noises, it's Murphy. Okay, so the rollover budget, when you set up like auto maintenance, for example, and this is where I think sinking fund is going to be an even better solution. So, and that's coming very soon. But what I do here is I say, okay, auto maintenance. I think that, let's see, what is our budget amount? It's $100 a month. So like we're thinking in a year's time, it'll be about $1,200 that will have to be spent in a year's time. It's not going to be $100 a month, but it's going to be $1,200 in a year. So what I do is I reset these. If a client is actively using Monarch for budgeting in this way, we generally will try to reset them in our Q1 meeting for January. And we'll say, okay, the starting month of this budget is January. The starting balance is 0 unless it's like something they already saved money for and they're like forward funding. But in general, for my clients, they're just like putting money into a non-monthly account on an ongoing basis. And so the money's kind of just always there. Starting balance 0 and starting in January. And then I'll hit save. And what that does is it accrues $100 a month to this budget. So in this demo account, this person has not spent any money on auto maintenance this year. And so we're in the 11th month of the year. So their rollover balance is $1,000 from last month, an additional $100 this month. So they have, through the end of November, they have $1,100 to spend because it's sort of been like accruing over time. So that's how it looks. It's the best solution that I have for non-monthly expenses at this point until new things come out from Monarch, which are coming soon. But that allows us to get a good sense of, are we estimating on an annualized basis? Are we estimating about right for how much this is costing? And it allows them to monthlytize, if you will, what that total is per month across all of their non-monthly spending, that like this is the amount that needs to accrue. My clients literally open a non-monthly savings or checking account and they save, like in this case, they would just have an auto transfer of $890 a month. Or if it didn't fit in their monthly cash flow with their paycheck, they would just, every time they get a bonus, they would put whatever that is, 10 grand into their non-monthly account for the year to fund these goals. So hopefully that made sense. What other questions?
Let's see. So those were both non-monthly. Let me see if there's anything else there.
Oh, Thomas asked about saving for a kitchen remodel. So it depends. If set up a budget account for saving money for a kitchen model. If it's the saving part and not the spending part, I would set it up as a goal.
Yeah.
So I would say a kitchen remodel, and they're putting $1,000 a month into that, and they already have 50 grand in an account. That's how I would do it for the saving part. If it's the spending part that you're asking about, I actually do those in a unique way. So I go into categories, and there's income categories, expense categories. There's also this like magic transfers category. The transfers category basically doesn't hit the budget. So if somebody has a specific thing like a remodel that they're doing, and they're spending a bunch on it, what I will do is I will actually create, I can't do it because it's a demo. Oh, maybe I can.
You're
I will
good.
create let's see, cook. Okay. I will create a new category called kitchen remodel, and I will do it in the transfers category. The reason I'm doing it in the transfers category is because I don't want this messing with their flex and their non-monthly and their fixed, right? I want to track how much they're spending on their remodel so that we can go in and search for it and say, okay, so far you've spent $125,000, but I don't want it to affect their monthly budget because it's not really part of their budget. This is like an extra thing. So that's how I would do it. And then I would have them categorize every time they have a kitchen remodel expense, I would have them categorize it this way. This is also the way I handle employee reimbursement. So business travel and meals. This is what we do for my husband, who has to sometimes charge 15 or 20,000 of business expenses on our credit card. Every transaction on that specific credit card, we have a rule that it automatically counts as business travel and meals. So it goes into this category. So I can really clearly see how much has been spent and how much has been reimbursed. But it doesn't affect our monthly cash flow because that would really screw with our budget. So that's how I would do a kitchen remodel. How often do I meet with my clients? I meet with clients more often than most advisors, but I meet with them quarterly. So we have different things we cover every quarter. Generally, budget is something that we're covering in Q1. And then we'll touch base on it at other meetings, but we're not spending an inordinate amount of time on budgeting. Okay, and then let's see what else. Can clients do this create new category? Yes, everything I showed you, clients can do as well. Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
basically the advisor functionality versus the client's functionality, exactly the same. The only exception to that is linking accounts. Clients have to link the accounts on their end.
Awesome. I know we're getting close to time. Any last questions, or should we wrap here?
I haven't seen any movement, so I think that we are good. It is not easy to scale if there is no group functionality.
That is something. So group functionality, team functionality is something that is on our roadmap. I don't have any ETA on that currently. Currently, I've had some advisors that will use kind of a general office email for their account. And then depending on kind of security and privacy at your firm, some folks do kind of share that amongst their team with trusted individuals. Just kind of depends on what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, and
Fantastic.
in our practice, we have one login. All of our clients are under that login. It's connected to my email, my work email. And we have it two-factored because we're two-factored on like everything. You don't have to log in and use your two-factor every time though. So like occasionally somebody from my team will Slack me and say, hey, can you send me the Monarch Authenticator, 6-digit number? But it happens maybe every like month or so. And so it actually ends up that we can be multi-user on it through the same login and still have multi-factor. And it hasn't really been an issue. So that's how we do it and work around it.
Awesome. Well, we are running on time, so just to adhere and respect everybody's schedules, I want to thank both Derek and Natalie for joining us today. Cash flow is always just such a fun little topic to listen in on. So I appreciate this engaging conversation. And for all of you who might have any lingering questions about Monarch Money, you can learn more about their advisor program. I'll drop a link in the chat below. And also another link if you want to sign up for Monarch today as well. And then last but not least, if you are interested in scheduling a call with an XYPN teammate just to learn more about XYPN, then there's going to be the scheduling link in that chat as well. Otherwise, thank you again for joining us. Thank you again, Natalie, Derek, for this wonderful conversation. And I hope that you all have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Great to see you.